All right, we are back with Nate again. Nate, thanks for joining us. Oh, GM's in the news again. They have another recall. It's actually the same recall. Nate's just going to love this because he's going to say, I told you so to everybody. So I'm showing on the screen here. This brings in 43,732 cars into this recall for GM, 10-speed recall. It's regarding the rear wheel lockup that they already recalled. Apparently, GM wants a do-over according to the drive, and they installed the wrong software on people's 10 speeds. So now they have to call all these people back in and try to install the correct software to prevent this rear wheel lockup. So just give me your reaction, and then also take me through there. I know you're going to say something about the hardware way you can delete this problem versus the software.
I have said the same thing for years, over and over and over and over again. And I've been right every single time. And a big portion of this industry still continues to try and fight me on it, which is that you can't trust them to fix these things. And people say, well, that's like a small percentage of them. I, I don't really care because the whole problem is caused by a part that does not need to be in the system. Um, The rear wheel locking up issue is caused by the feed limit valves. I'm the one who figured that out. I have the timestamps to prove it. There's a whole study on our website about this. It's caused by the feed limit valves. You don't need feed limit valves. You can modify the separator plate and the valves and eliminate them. And you can plug off those parts of the transmission and then just not have them. And go figure, it brings a whole bunch of lost pressure back. These parts don't need to be there. And they could do that for very cheap. We're applying for patent on this right now. It's patent pending. But my point is, you could have licensed it from us for cheap. We gave them the opportunity. In fact, our door is still open. This is so fixable. But instead, they're trying to fix it with software. You can't fix it with software because it's a hardware issue. You can do software to like make it throw a light instead of locking up, and then you have to go to the dealers. You do whatever you want. The bottom line is you fix the problem by eliminating the feed limit valves, which is IP that we're patenting. We tried to fix this problem with General Motors. We tried to approach them. We tried to give this IP to them. We've tried everything to fix this problem. In fact, now that we've sold hundreds of these kits to General Motors and thousands of them to the public, you know how many of these people we gave discounts or tried to help them out because we felt bad? Like what is that? Let's say the average discount was $100 over a couple thousand people. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars of NextGen's profits that were given away to try and help General Motors customers. Isn't that pathetic? I'm not right about everything. I don't know everything. I'm just a person. There's plenty of things I'm incorrect about. But if there's one thing I'm right about, it's this. And we've proven it 10,000 times. I just wish people would listen to me because I'm giving away the answer for free. Delete the valves that cause the problem. You don't need to change the software, and we can all move on with our life. But the fact that there is now 44,000 additional reasons that they cannot be trusted to fix their own vehicle is further validation that everyone that works at this company wakes up and comes here to do something that makes a lot of sense and does a lot of good. I don't know why they can't figure it out. I don't know. We tried to make a deal. They weren't interested. I guess it's too expensive for them, but bringing 44,000 pissed off people back to their local dealership, I guess that's not too expensive for them. I don't know.
Yeah, and the drive, Byron Hurd said, I'll give them credit for this reporting because I love how he says, to clarify, the software does not fix the inherent issues with the valve body, nor does it prevent further deterioration of performance. It simply prevents the transmission from commanding random, unsafe shifts at speed. So, and I think you had an interview with them, didn't you? At the drive, they were pretty good.
I absolutely did. Byron Hurd is actually a really cool guy. He's super straight to the point, honest dude. I've only worked with him one time, but he's an excellent guy from the impression I got. So I want to give him a shout out. I get no incentive to say that. I think he's a cool dude. I speak to a lot of people in the automotive industry, and it's hard to find people that you think want to put accurate information out there. And I believe that's him. So I just want to give him a shout out. He's a cool guy.
And this problem, so is this the single problem they fixed with hardware in the newest valve body they have?
Well, so they didn't even fix it. They fixed the exact combination of failures that can take place for the rear lockup problem to or event to occur. So they removed the feed limit valve and they routed that oil elsewhere in the valve body on the low pressure feed limit valve.
Right.
There's still a high pressure feed limit valve. There's a bunch of pulse dampeners that don't need to be there. You have a pressure reg valve that has a spring that's too soft behind it. You have a separator plate that's way too thin. The screens blow out. You have these aluminum shift valves that warp and get stuck in the bore. Our steel ones don't do that because they're thicker down the middle. We're patenting that. Like, there's just so many problems with this valve body. And you're trying to patch the only one that there's a recall probe into. Like, there's just no attempt to do this right. And I've said this hundreds, if not thousands of times. They specifically make that fails so they can charge you to replace it. It worked for Land Rover. It worked for Ferrari. It worked for Bentley. Like, think of every automotive company that was in a financial crisis its whole life that finally started being profitable. What did they do? They charged you to fix them, and then they started selling SUVs. Ferrari. So that's just what they do. And General Motors is truly no different. They know that there is a ton of money. I listen to their earnings reports. Don't take it from me. If you don't believe me, that's fine. Who cares? Listen to one of their earnings reports. They brag about parts revenue. They brag about service revenue. Well, why would you brag about those things unless their numbers you're trying to make bigger to tell your shareholders? They want the parts to fail so they can
Yeah.
sell parts. I mean, it's really no different than any other industry. How many pharmaceutical medications would be sold if nobody ever got sick again? Well, none. That
Yeah.
means it's a multi-trillion-dollar liability that people stay sick. Now, I don't care how people feel about big pharma or whatever have you. I'm just saying that they make a lot of money off us not being very well. And regardless of your policy beliefs, that's a fact. If if nobody's tires ever ran out of tread, the tire industry would be gone. So why would auto parts be any different? If you don't have a lifetime unlimited mileage warranty on your part, I don't want to hear how you designed it to be reliable because we have a lifetime unlimited mileage warranty with unlimited power. Doesn't matter what you do with the vehicle, doesn't matter what the application is. When you buy these valve body parts here, we guarantee them forever until the end of time. If you have any failure of a valve, a plate, whatever, send it in. We'll swap out the bad part for a good part. It's just like going to Snap-on and your torque wrench, your torque wrench is acting up. They just give you another one. That's how we do valve body parts here because we know they're going to live forever. And virtually nobody's contacting us for that service. So it costs us basically nothing to have a lifetime warranty. If they're making such reliable parts, then why aren't they doing that? Well, because they're not, and they know they're not. That's why instead of having a lifetime warranty, they get on an earnings call with their investors and their board, their equity holders, and they brag about parts revenue. I don't mean to pick on General Motors because they all do it. JLR does it, Ford does it, Volkswagen does it, Toyota does it, Stellantis does it. They all do the same thing. They want unreliable stuff they can charge you to fix. I have said this for years, and I have been right every time. If people don't like the way I communicate my message or something, look, that's fine. The reality, I, I'm not a politician. I'm not somebody with a business degree. I engineer car parts, man. That's what I do. Whatever I'm thinking, I'm saying it. But I do this because I don't see anyone else doing this. And I'm at a point where I'm like, what are you guys doing? I'm not the only person who has this information. So why aren't the other people in this industry doing the same thing? Where's the native next gen of turbos? Where's the native next gen of suspension? Where's the native next gen of brake pads, tires, ergos, airbags, computers? Where are you guys at? I know you exist. I can name many of you. Where are
You
you
know,
at?
what's funny is you say that about suspension parts. So Icon does suspension parts like the latest Tacoma. The Toyota Tacoma pops the top hat on their shocks because it was
Nice.
just built too weakly, and it's like they run over a bump and it pops, and then your shocks slamming, and you got to go to the dealer to get it fixed. Well, Icon makes a new part for it, an up armored part for the top of your shock. And it was funny. People did the same exact thing in the YouTube videos for them. They're like, hey, you broke it, and now you're trying to sell something that doesn't need to be sold. The kind of the same thing they do to you. In the
Yeah.
comments, they're like, well, whatever, man. It's not all of them. And then you start to see them trickle in, and then there's a TSB for it. And it's like, it's just funny how, like, I get that how it looks from the outside to people that, Icon designed the suspension part, or you design the valve bodies, and then, you're talking about the problem and you're solving the problem. But what do people want you to do? Not solve the problem? I don't
Well,
understand it.
you know what I say is when people, and it's almost always the transmission industry getting mad at me because they want to sell transmissions and we want to sell prevention, and they feel like I'm an obstacle, right? When people do business here, they don't do business there. That's a financial liability to them, and that's the problem. So, like, let's just be very clear about what they're not going to tell you. It is exactly the same thing, where the reality is that if you're correct about something, and that something costs somebody else money, and that somebody else has enough money to try and drown you out in public forum, they're going to do it. The automotive industry, something that's becoming popular here, is paying these Chinese bot farms to go in Facebook groups and post a bunch of things that are untrue about people they don't like. And if they can get enough people to start parroting that same information, they create an avalanche of honestly fake news that they created by misleading people. That's a new thing. If you don't believe me, Google it, look into it. Chinese bot farms, social media, public relations, fake accounts. Like, start Googling stuff like that. Go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Amazon's been caught doing this, Walmart, all these big companies have been caught doing this. You don't think the automotive industry does this? We already caught somebody doing this. I named the company in a previous video. I don't know if I want to name them again, but I I've got screenshots of this stuff. I got screenshots of people that work at other companies using BS accounts to say things that are untrue about us. And then you find out it's a company that we financially compete with. So when people buy our product, they don't buy their product. Of course you think we suck. Duh. Every time somebody buys something here, you lost money. Of course you think that about us. So that's okay. You can be honest, because I just want consumers to educate themselves and make whatever decisions right for them. If you truly believe you have the best product on the market, then you don't have to sell it. You just need to teach people how that thing works. And that's why for us, we don't run ads, we don't have billboards, we don't buy sponsorship positions at race shows and things. That's not how we get our message out to people. We just teach people about transmissions. And the more you learn, the more you realize, oh wait, no wonder people pay more for next gen stuff. It makes sense now. Look at everything you get and look at all this stuff you don't get when you go to the cheaper guys. It's an education function. I think the aftermarket needs to revolt against the OEMs and stop being scared of them. The aftermarket thinks that OEMs can kick our ass because they have more money. Well, that might be true, but nothing turns slower than a big ship, right? The OEMs are very slow to react to everything because they're so big. They cannot possibly stop 3 or 4 dozen people like me with credibility in their sub industry coming out and explaining how they're lying about everything. They can't stop. Like, this is why I'm such a fan of some of the YouTube channels, the few YouTube channels that try to put messages like this out there. Like Uncle Tony's Garage. I found him about a year ago. He's such a knowledgeable elder gentleman that's clearly been turning wrenches longer than I've been alive. And so maybe I'm a math nerd, but he's got a lot of wrench time I don't have. And I respect that completely. And I've listened to several of his videos, and it sounds like he is extraordinarily knowledgeable. Why aren't there more people like that? Where are the rest of those people with that sort of knowledge? Whether you're a laborer or an engineer, either or, if you know what you're talking about, come forward and say something. These people need to be stopped. And it doesn't have to be aggressive or anything, it just has to be public education.
Oh, one thing I wanted to mention. I watched your full install video, even though I don't have a kit. Even if you have never seen a valve body torn apart and you want to go learn how it's done, it's kind of cool to watch. Got really good shots, like multiple camera angles. And I don't know, I just think people should go check it out if you're on the fence of, whether or not you should do the kit or you could do it on your own. Yeah, is there any message you wanted to get out about that? Because it was only like a couple of weeks ago that it was put out there, and it was kind of I feel like there's still questions people have. They're always saying, hey, how do you install these things? How hard is it? But the video's there. People don't know about it.
Um, well, I want people to know that everything I engineer is designed for the average person to be able to do it if they can follow instructions. Um, our goal at NextGen Drivetrain is to decentralize transmission repair from the transmission industry and the OEMs down to the private repair shop or the driveway. And I saw this phenomena where people were spending $1,500 or $2,000, 1,500 bucks, let's call it, to go to a transmission company or shop and have a valve body installed that is barely upgraded and has maybe 30 to $50 in parts. And I was like, so they spend $1,500 to walk away with $50 worth of upgrades. What if we just sell $1,500 worth of upgrades and then give you the power to do it? Well, isn't that 33 times better of a deal or 30 times better of a deal? I would say it is. And it sounds like thousands of other people say it is. So if if you don't know how a transmission works, that's okay because 90% of the transmission industry does not know how a transmission works. So if you don't know how a transmission works, you are already right on par with the rest of the transmission industry. So as far as I'm concerned, if you can change your own oil, you can install the parts that I design. And if you truly get hung up, that's why there's a number to talk to somebody in this building who does this for a living. I am adamant about right to repair, and I'm adamant that people can do things in their garage. And I think that all this puffery about how transmissions are too complicated for people to work on or whatever is total BS. If you can follow instructions, you can install our kit. It's that simple.
Awesome. Thanks, Nate. Appreciate it.
Sure. Glad to be on.